What is up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm your host, Eis. Uh, Long time no talk, but I'm back. So today is the day, um, June 25th, 2021. The United States government has recognized the existence of UAPs, so we got them on record. Um, Here's a report. This comes from the DNI. Um, so if you don't know where to go to get it, to download it, um, you could just go to the DNI's website and you can get it right there. Uh, what I've been to the last 3 months. Well, I'm working on this documentary. I was hoping to get it out before the 25th because the topic is space. I got most of it done, but the last bit of it, it's like a full-fledged documentary, and I think you're gonna really like it. It's about space, and should probably take me another 2 weeks. So look for that. That's what I've been doing. I've been politically active. I joined a campaign here in Missouri, so I'll be doing that. I've already put out 1,500 flyers, volunteering for them. It's been very fun. Um, what else? Monitoring the situations, looking to I've been writing some letters here and there. I get anti-mask and stuff like that here in St. Louis. But let's go ahead and read this together, and then if I see anything, I'll point it out. Unclassified. Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Preliminary Assessment Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon. Scope and assumptions. Scope. This preliminary report is provided by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, ODNI, in response to the provision in Senate Report 116-233 accompanying the Intelligence Authorization Act, the fiscal year 2021, that the DNI, in consultation with the Secretary of Defense, SecDef, is to submit an intelligence assessment of the threat posed by unidentified aerial phenomenon. So intelligence assessment, that's the purpose of the threat posed. So they're doing an intelligence assessment of the threat. So that's the purpose of this report. So it's important that we get it all down. Unidentified aerial phenomenon, and the progress the Department of Defense Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force has made in understanding this threat. The report provides an overview for policymakers of the challenges associated with characterizing the potential threat posed by UAP, while also providing a means to develop relevant processes, policies, technologies, and training for the U.S. military and other U.S. government personnel if and when they encounter a UAP, so as to enhance the intelligence community ability to understand the threat. The Director, UAPTF, is the accountable official for ensuring the timely collection and consolidation of data on UAP. So that's important. The Director, UAPTF, UAP Task Force. The dataset described in this report is currently limited primarily to the U.S. government reporting of incidents occurring from November 2004 to March 2021. So apparently they're only covering it from those years, which we've been having UFO activity since the 40s, the 1940s. Data continues to be collected and analyzed. ODNI prepared this report, its Office Director of National Intelligence, For the Congressional Intelligence and Armed Services Committees, UAPTF, and the ODNI, National Intelligence Manager for Aviation, drafted this report. So these are the people that drafted the report with input from, and this is interesting too. I thought that this is interesting intelligence. These are the people they asked. So these must be the major players. But we don't know that for sure. There could be agencies that are completely secret. You got to remember, the National Reconnaissance Office was established in 1960, and it wasn't declassified till 93. Okay, so USD, I think that stands for United States Defense. I don't know what INS is. DIA, FBI, NRO, NGA, NSA, Air Force, Army, Navy, ODNI, DARPA, FAA, NOAA, NGA again, ODNI, NIM, Emerging and Disruptive Technologies, ODNI, National Counterintelligence and Security Center, and ODNI, National Intelligence Council. So you probably want to look up these National and Counterintelligence Security Center. That looks fascinating. Assumptions. Okay, so that was the scope. Here's their assumptions. Various forms of sensors that register UAP generally operate correctly and capture enough real data to allow initial assessments. But some UAP may be attributable to sensor anomalies. It's like a bad radar system or a false blimp. Executive summary. The limited amount of high-quality reporting on unidentified aerial phenomenon hampers our ability to draw firm conclusions about the nature or intent of UAP. So, that's important. A limited amount of high-quality reporting. So they need better reporting. So my understanding is that this is opening it up for anybody, pilots or radar operators, to report this without being considered a wacko or shamed or whatever, or threatened to be quiet about it. The Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force considered a range of information on UAP described in U.S. military and IC reporting. But because the reporting lacked sufficient specificity, sorry, I can't read that. Tongue-tied, I'm on the spot. It's been a while since I've been on air. Basically specific. Ultimately, recognized that a unique tailored reporting process was required to provide sufficient data for analysis of UAP events. Okay. As a result, the UAPTF concentrated its review on reports that occurred between 04 and 21, the majority of which are a result of this new tailored process to better capture UAP events through formalized reporting. So it's just been since 2004, and I wonder if, I guess it's because of the Fraser Dietrich sighting that was in 04, which I believe they were the Navy off the coast of Virginia and LA area. So that probably went to the DIA or the Office of Naval Intelligence, and they said, okay, we need to investigate what this was, and this is where we're at. Most of the UAP reported probably do represent physical objects, given that a majority of UAP were registered across multiple sensors. This is interesting. So this is what they're using to include, or that they're willing to discuss anyway. Radar, infrared, electro-optical. That I believe that's interesting. The FLIR talks about a contrast capturing, which is interesting. Weapon seekers, That'd be like heat, I believe, heat seekers, and visual observation. In a limited number of incidents, UAP reportedly appeared to exhibit unusual flight characteristics. These observations could be the result of sensor error, spoofing, or observer misperception and require additional rigorous analysis. Okay, so spoofing, it could be a result of spoofing. There are probably multiple types of UAP requiring different explanations based on the range of appearances and behaviors described in the available reporting. Our analysis of the data supports the construct that if and when individual UAP incidents are resolved, they will fall into one of 5 potential explanatory categories. Okay, so they've categorized it. Airborne clutter, natural atmospheric phenomenon, USG or US industrial, or US industry development programs. That's interesting. Foreign adversary systems, and a catch-all other bin. So this is what they've categorized as of right now. So we need to investigate what these are here in the future. This is like a contest. Let's see who can put out the best, reports. So we have to investigate all these individuals ones. Also, we need to investigate radar, infrared, all these, so we can better understand it. I guess I'll take this case. It seems fascinating. I've been monitoring it big time. And then of course there's this catch all other bin. So they don't add alien life forms from another star system, but they're not ruling it out. UAP clearly pose a safety or flight issue and may pose a challenge to U.S. national security. That's pretty obvious. Safety, but questions we'll want to ask there is: have there been collisions? How many times do they try to intercept these UAPs? Have they tried attacking the UAPs? So what we should do is I'm gonna go ahead and do this. I'm gonna do a counter report, and we'll break down each paragraph, and then we'll add a whole unique questions. We'll study the paragraph. We'll study all the terms. We'll look up the terms, and we'll have some counter questions that we need to either ask ourselves or the government or what have you. Okay, so safety concerns primarily center on aviators contending with an increasingly cluttered air domain. So that's basically planes in the sky and possible collisions and stuff. UAP would also represent a national security challenge if they are foreign adversaries. Now that could actually, when you say foreign adversaries, there's nothing ruling out other star systems. Collection platforms or provide evidence a potential adversary that has developed either a breakthrough or disruptive technology. Consistent consolidation of reports from across the federal government, standardized reporting, increased collection analysis, and a streamlined process for screening all such reports against a broad range of relevant USG data will allow for a more sophisticated analysis of UAP that is likely to deepen our understanding. Some of these steps are resource intensive and require additional investment. So I can agree with that. That's basically it's saying let's come up with a standard across the 17 different intelligence agencies. I think there's a lot more, to be honest with you. Like a lot of them, they don't even count like CISA, and they don't count the Missile Defense Agency, stuff like that, Space Command, all these things. So definitely let's get a standardized reporting system so that all this information can be funneled to one spot for better sifting, collecting, and analyzing of the data. Okay, we're almost done. This is page 4 out of 9. Available reporting largely inconclusive. Okay. Limited data leaves most UAP unexplained. Okay. Limited data and inconsistency in reporting are key challenges to evaluating UAP. So limited data and inconsistency in reporting. So they got reports that are all over the place, and there's very limited data of it. No standardized reporting mechanism exists. See, that's what we just talked about. They need to get a standardized mechanisms, maybe even a whole another ICE, intelligence department, a small one, maybe a sub department. But yeah, something where we can get, some kind of established protocol. Mechanisms existed until the Navy established one on March 2019. So the Navy took the initiative on that, which, by the way, the leading department for space is the Air Force. But the Navy does do a lot with their Aegis missile defense tracking system, and obviously their Trident missiles and stuff like that. It's a whole spectrum dominance where they incorporate all the departments in one. The domains. Land, air, space, land, air, sea. The Air Force subsequently adopted that mechanism in November 2020, so that's good. That shows cooperation, but it remains limited to USG reporting. I don't know what USG stands for. United States government, I guess. The UAPTF regularly heard anecdotally during its research about other observations that occurred, but which were never captured in formal or informal reporting by those observers. So, take a step back here, hypothetically, the CIA and the FBI have both been keeping their own, reporting files on this phenomenon since the 40s. So maybe those two agencies basically are too out there, too rogue, just not cooperative enough. Maybe they want to maintain their power in some way. So to basically island hop these agencies like the CIA and the FBI, the military, especially the Navy and Air Force, took it upon themselves to get ahead of this and to take charge and just basically set up their own investigation in public view. That way essentially bypassing, containing, and eliminating the FBI's and CIA's investigation. Because most likely, if they were doing that, it means that they were monopolizing the information for themselves. That's just a theory. Just keep that in the back of your mind. The Air Force subsequently, let's see, I read that. The UAP regularly heard, I read that. After carefully considering the information, the UAPTF focused on reports that involved UAP largely witnessed firsthand by military aviators and that were collected from systems we considered to be reliable. These reports describe incidents that systems they consider to be reliable, radar, optical, radio. These reports describe incidents that occurred between 2004 and 21, with the majority coming in the last 2 years as the new reporting mechanisms became better known to the military aviation community. We were able to identify one reported UAP with high confidence. In this case, we identified the object as a large, deflating balloon. The others remain unexplained. So, since 2004 to 21, the Navy, let's say the military, say the Navy and the Air Force, have 144 reports originated from the USG sources. Of these, 80 reports involved observation with multiple sensors. So that's interesting. Okay, keep that in mind. 80 of them are observation and multiple sensors. The other are this either observational or just pure sensors. Sensors, they talked about that up above. Most reports describe UAP as objects that interrupted pre-planned training or other military activity. So that's interesting too. So we're not talking anything else. The majority have been that, but that makes sense because this is all coming from the Navy or the Air Force. So, they're not, it would make sense that if that's all their reporting is coming from, it's going to be around those, military installations. So far, the report is saying that the only people we have reporting are the military, which is the Navy and the Air Force. Now, the FBI or DHS or whatever would probably have their own, investigations that could be around civilian centers because they handle domestic intelligence. So just keep that in mind. UAP collection challenges. So here's their challenges. Socio-cultural stigmas, okay, and sensor limitations remain obstacles to collecting data on UAP. So basically, their observers will have a preconceived, bias, whether they're religious or what. So when they go to say, hey, I don't know what I saw, I think it's an angel or a demon or an alien or what, so if you can remove your particular bias and look at it strictly as, in a scientific way, that's what they're talking about with that. It's supposedly a major challenge. I don't think it would. Personally, I don't think it would. One sec. Okay, sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. I got a call. So let's continue. All right. Although some technical challenges, such as how to appropriately filter out radar clutter to ensure safety or flight for military and civilian aircraft, are long-standing in the aviation community. Okay, so that just means there's so much clutter that you have to have a skilled operator to really, to sift out false alarms, basically. They probably get a lot of blimps, or whatever the technical term is. It says are long-standing in the community, while others are unique to UAP problem set. Now, all this has nothing to do with the video we watch about the Tic Tac. That clearly was something else out there. Narratives from aviators in the operational community, analysis from the military and IC describe disparagement associated with observing. So, see, disparagement. That means ridiculed, intimidated, or shamed. UAP reporting it or attempting to discuss it with colleagues. So they're told to keep their mouth shut about that. So that's the stigma that's been permeated through the DoD and IC. Although the effects of these stigmas have lessened as senior members of the scientific, policy, military, and intelligence communities engage on the topic seriously in public, reputational risks may keep many observers silent, complicating scientific pursuit of the topic. So that's good. So this is part of the process of, breaking down the negative stigmas of ufology. And that includes in the academia too, the big time in the academia. Like, we should be developing, alternate forms of propulsion, and say, hey, let's try to develop an anti-gravity gravitics propulsion whatever, without being laughed out of the room. The sensors mounted on military platforms are typically designed to fulfill specific missions. That makes sense. That would be like tracking space debris, or tracking ICBMs, stuff like that, or aircraft. As a result, those sensors are not generally suited for identifying UAP. So that's important. So, maybe we need to get specific radars that are, solely focused, like radar, radio, optical, and radio tracking platforms specifically designed to track UAPs. Now, it's always theorized that they do this already. They just do it secret. You know what I'm saying? So we're just basing it on this. Now, there might be. There could be the CIA with Lockheed Martin and, Boeing and stuff, and the NRO could have secret, satellites that do track this stuff specifically. But from what this seems, this is coming from the Air Force and the Navy. From all the military personnel that don't know what this is and don't have access to like the CIA and the NRO, But actually the NRO does, because the NRO does coordinate with the Space Command. So I don't know. Sensor vantage points and the numbers of sensors concurrently observing an object play substantial roles in distinguishing UAPs from known objects. Okay, sensor vantage points and the numbers of sensors concurrently observing an object play substantial roles in distinguishing UAP from known objects and determining whether the UAP demonstrates breakthrough aerospace capabilities. So that means, more radars from different vantage points. Our system of tracking ICBMs and space debris and satellites, how we track them is by a lot of ground-based radio and radar and optical systems scattered throughout the planet. And also with our assets in space. So if they need more, that's what it's talking about. The more, the better. Optical sensors have the benefit of providing some insight into relative size, shape, and structure. Radio frequency sensors provide more accurate velocity and range information. So that's cool. Page 5. But some potential patterns do emerge. We're talking about behavioral patterns and frequency patterns. Although there was wide variability in the reports and the data set is currently too limited to allow for detailed trend or pattern analysis, there was some clustering of UAP observations regarding shape, size, and particularly propulsion. UAP sightings also tended to cluster around U.S. training and testing grounds, but we assess that this may result from a collection bias as a result of focused attention, greater numbers of latest generation sensors operating in those areas, unit expectations, and guidance to report anomalies. Okay, that makes sense. So there'd be more of a bias in that area based on that. And a handful of UAP appeared to demonstrate advanced technology. And a handful of UAP in 18 incidents, so we're talking 18, described in 21 reports, observers reported unusual UAP movement patterns or flight characteristics. Now we're talking the Tic Tac. Some UAP appeared to remain stationary in winds aloft, move against the wind, maneuver abruptly, or move at considerable speed without discernible means of propulsion. In a small number of cases, military aircraft systems process radio frequency energy associated with UAP sightings. The UAPTF holds a small amount of data that appear to show UAP demonstration, acceleration, or a degree of signature movement. Additional rigorous analysis are necessary by multiple teams or groups of technical experts to determine the nature and validity of these data. We are conducting further analysis to determine if breakthrough technologies were demonstrated. So it does sound like there are breakthrough. We know just through the Tic Tac that it's pretty breakthrough. UAP probably lack a single explanation. Okay, so that's makes sense. Probably not one single explanation that can describe these things. UAP document on this limited data set demonstrated an array of aerial behaviors, reinforcing the possibility these are multiple types of UAP requiring different explanations. Our analysis of the data supports the construct that if and when individual UAP incidents are resolved, they will fall into one of 5 potential explanatory categories: airborne clutter, natural atmospheric phenomenon, USG, or in industry developmental programs. Okay, so that could be our own. Foreign adversary systems, not excluding other star systems, and a catch-all other bin. With the exception of one instance where we determined with high... Okay, we read this before. It was a balloon. Okay, so here they're describing what these mean. Airborne clutter. These objects include birds, balloons, recreational unmanned aerial vehicles, drones, UAV, or airborne debris like plastic bags that model a scene and affect an operator's ability to identify true targets, such as an enemy aircraft. Natural atmospheric phenomena. Natural atmospheric phenomena include ice crystals, moisture, and thermal fluctuations that may register on some infrared and radar systems. USG, or Industrial Developmental Program. Some UAP observations could be attributable to developments in classified programs by U.S. entities. We are unable to confirm, however, that these systems accounted for any of the UAP reports we collected. Okay, so that's like TR-3B type stuff. Or just basically advanced aircraft that can go extremely fast, like the Aurora program. Or the, there's the SR-71. That was last flown in 2000, I believe, or something like that. But yeah, that basically reaches the limits of how fast you can fly a jet, because anything faster would just melt the aircraft. It literally bend it, and they had to have special types of material on top of it. Unless there's some kind of new technology, I'm not saying that if it's just a straight jet or whatever, but who knows? I could have water cooled. Fuselage or some wings and some kind of like air bubble in the front or something like that. Foreign adversary systems. Okay, some UAP may be technology deployed by China, Russia, other nations, or a non-governmental entity. There it is. That's the alien, or cartel, drug cartel, whatever. You know what that means. Other. Although most of the UAP described in our data set probably remain unidentified due to limited data or challenges to collection, processing, or analysis, we may require additional scientific knowledge or successful collect on, analyze, and characterize some of them. We would group such objects in this category pending scientific advances that allowed us to better understand them. The UAPTF intends to focus additional analysis on the small number of cases where a UAP appeared to display unusual flight characteristics or signature management. UAP threaten flight safety and possible national security. UAP pose a hazard to safety of flight. It could pose a broader danger. In some instances, represent sophisticated collection against U.S. military activities by a foreign government, or demonstrate a breakthrough aerospace technology by a potential adversary. Ongoing airspace concerns. When aviators encounter safety hazards, they are required to report these concerns. Depending on the location, volume, and behavior of hazards during incursions on ranges, pilots may cease their tests and their training and land their aircraft, which has deterrent effect on reporting. A UAPTF has 11 reports of documented incidents in which pilots reporting near misses with a UAP. Potential national security challenges. We currently lack data to indicate any UAP are part of a foreign collection program or indicative of a major technological advancement by a potential adversary. That's good. We continue to monitor for evidence of such programs, given the counterintelligence challenges they would pose, particularly as some UAP have been detected near military facilities or by aircraft carrying the USG's most advanced sensor systems. That might not be true. Could China and Russia have a breakthrough? It's possible. If aliens do exist, there's no reason why they would only solely contact the U.S. or crash in the lands of the United States. If they exist, and if we've had either capture by shooting down, or they just crash, or just say, hey, here's some technology, whatever, drop it off. It's quite possible that Russia and China could have been, had that possibility in their native land. Then they could reverse engineer it and be doing whatever they want with it. It's just a possibility. I wouldn't rule it out fully. Do I believe the U.S. has superior technology? Yes, based on the lead that we've had since the Cold War, and the amount of money that we do spend in our defense budget. Explaining UAP will require analytic collection and resource investment, standardize the reporting, consolidate the data, and deepen the analysis. In line with the provisions of Senate report accompanying the IAA for fiscal year 2021, the UAPTF's long-term goal is to widen the scope of its work and include additional UAP events documented by a broader swath of USG personnel and technical analysis in its analysis. As the data set increases, the UAPTF's ability to employ data analytics to detect trends will also improve. The initial focus will be to employ artificial intelligence, machine learning algorithms to cluster and recognize similarities and patterns and features of the data points. As the database accumulates information from known aerial objects such as weather balloons, high altitude or superpressure balloons, and wildlife, machine learning can add efficiency by pre-assessing UAP reports to see if those reports match similar events already in the database. So that's basically crunching data and getting a statistical probability of what things could be. The UAPTF has begun to develop interagency analytical and processing workflows to ensure both collection and analysis will be informed and coordinated. So they're already developing interagency cooperation and some kind of standardized reporting. I wonder who's giving them the authority to do that. Now this was issued by the DNI, which is in charge of, theoretically, is supposed to be in charge of all the IC. It's supposed to be the head. But, we know how that goes. The majority of the UAP data is from U.S. Navy reporting. So there you go. It says it right there. The majority of UAP data is from U.S. naval reporting. So this is just the iceberg. The tip of the iceberg. Imagine what the FBI has. The FBI has been, investigating this in secret since the probably the 40s, if not the 20s. The same with the Central Intelligence Agency, same with the NSA and the DIA. And now you have other agencies like the National Reconnaissance Office. You got the National Geospatial Agency. And then you got foreign. You got Britain and the Five Eyes doing their thing. And then you got espionage into Russia and China and seeing what they know. So this is basically, I think I know what this is. This is basically the military taking charge and over of this situation and basically island hopping the CIA and FBI because they're most likely not cooperating, and in fact they could be kind of rogue in some elements. We do know that the CIA is mostly financial warfare. They do a lot of that. The CIA has its hands big time in the space domain. We know Lockheed and the NRO. But even though that there's been a lot of bluing in the NRO, it's mostly Air Force now. But for a time, it was a lot of CIA. But of course, they just hack all the systems and get any information they need. They can hack the Navy and get whatever the Navy's reporting, or they can hack the FBI, or spy on the FBI from the CIA. But efforts are underway to standardize incident reporting across U.S. military services and other government agencies to ensure all relevant data is captured with respect to particular incidents and any U.S. activities that might be relevant. The UAPTF is currently working to acquire additional reporting, including from the U.S. Air Force, and has begun receiving data from the FAA. Although USAF data, that's USSF, by the way, it's Space Force, is under the Department of the Air Force. Although USAF data collection has been limited historically to USAF began a 6-month pilot program in November 2020 to collect in the most likely areas to encounter UAP. So that's interesting. So there is hotspots that they just admitted that right there, to collect in the most likely areas to encounter a UAP. So we need to be asking ourselves, what are those likely areas? I'd like to know. Off the coast of Norfolk, Virginia, or off the coast of LA or San Diego, I guess. And evaluating how to normalize future collection, reporting, and analyzing, or I don't know what Central or like Colorado, that area. In addition, the FAA continually monitors its systems for anomalies, generating additional information that may be of use for the UAPTF. That's important. I mean, the FAA, they're monitoring all commercial flights, so they have the whole grid mapped. So you got to understand. I mean, I would have to assume all skies in space is completely mapped out to 30,000 miles from the Earth. I mean, if you're monitoring space debris from a baseball size, if you're monitoring ICBMs or from all around the planet, if you're monitoring Northcom and the FAA monitoring all of North America's airspace, I don't think there's much square footage that's not being monitored. But I don't know. I know that's a question we need to ask ourselves. How much of the airspace and space is how is it all being monitored? Is every square inch being monitored? Is there gaps? I mean, where are the gaps? I'll talk to you about my theory of water and why that would be the best way to travel covertly or camouflagely. Real quick, radio frequencies don't travel in water. We know that our submarines go down about 1,000 to 1,500 meters tops because of the pressure. Sonar is the only thing. Sound is the only thing that can travel through the medium of water. That will give you an echo effect like radar. That can go out to about a couple hundred miles, but the oceans are big and they go down to about 10,000 meters deep. So if these craft have developed ways to travel through mediums with no problem, then the pressure is not a problem, so they can really get down deep to 5,000 meters, 6,000 meters, even 10,000 meters at the bottom of the deepest parts of the ocean. And travel that would be their best way of traveling covertly, assuming that they don't have some kind of a cloaking system that they can't just travel. I mean, you'd think that their radar, we're talking aliens here, I mean, that their radar would be so sophisticated that we'd have nothing that can really track it. and that would be cloaked. So it is what it is. Let's see, expand collection. The UAPTF is looking for novel ways to increase collection of UAP cluster areas when U.S. forces are not present as a way to baseline standard UAP activity and mitigate the collection bias in the dataset. Okay, so that's interesting. Maybe like a civilian force or something, or domestic civilian agency. One proposal is to use advanced algorithms to search historical data captured and stored by radars. There you go. Like a regex search through all the data. UAPTF also plans to update its current interagency UAPT collection strategy in order to bring to bear relevant collection platforms and methods from the DoD and IC. So that's kind of like the concept of the fusion center. They wanted to, not. They wanted to make the data easily shareable across from the local police all the way up to the FBI and CIA and stuff like that. The only problem is when you do that full integration thing, is that once you break one, you can have access to the whole thing. So that's the whole idea of the compartmentalization. But the problem with the compartmentalization is that you can't share, information. So if the NSAs get a tip, it's got to be a certain protocol about sharing it with the FBI. That's the only thing. It's the same in military. If your whole system's integrated, so like you have 5 different forces, Navy, Air Force, Army and stuff, and you want it to be like one seamless unit, like one unit. The problem is that you just take out one and you take out the whole thing. So you kind of have to have a combination of semi-autonomous units that think independently, but it can also work together seamlessly with the rest of the unit at one, as one unit. How to so the key really is how good you can turn it off and on. Like you turn it on, okay, now all the units are working together as one unit. Turn it off, now they're all working independently as individual autonomous units. That's how that works. Increased investment in research and development. The UAPTF has indicated the traditional funding for research and development could further the future study of the topics laid out in the report. Such investment should be guided by a UAP collection strategy, technical roadmap, and UAP program plan. So what's our overall strategy? Is it just to figure out what it is? Let's get a game plan going and know exactly what our objective is. Let's figure that out. It could be a lot of things. Let's figure out how to shoot one of these things down, really, or how to communicate. Have we tried to communicate with these things? What's their behavior like? Is it aggressive? Is it playful? Is stuff like that. So, all right. So we got appendix. Okay, let's read these real quick. A report on UAPTF databases used the following defining terms. So this is important to know. We need to know the terms. UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena. And that obviously was used as a marketing tactic because UFO has a bunch of weird associated events, that they want to start fresh, right? So we don't want to associate crop circles and cattle mutilations and alien, like the Greys abducting people and doing probes and stuff on them, or remote viewing. They want to keep this to this, right? And this is the definition. Airborne objects not immediately identifiable. The acronym UAP represents the broadest category of airborne objects reviewed for analysis. So basically we're talking aircraft. Or possibly spacecraft, but this is what they want to keep it at. Aircraft. UAP event. A holistic description of an occurrence during which a pilot or aircrew witnessed or detected a UAP. Okay. So they didn't add they didn't add a radar operator or civilian, but that's fine. It's not a big deal. UAP incident, a specific part of the event. So the event is the parent, and the child is the incident. So the incident is nested in the event. Okay, that's coding terminology right there. UAP report is the documentation of a UAP event to include verified chains of custody and a basic information such as the time, date, location, and description of the UAP. So that's important pedigree information. UAP reports include range Fowler reports and other reporting. Okay, Appendix B, Senate report accompanying the Intelligence Authorization Act, fiscal year 2021. Senate report accompanying the Intelligence Authorization Act for fiscal year 2021 provides the DNI in consultation with the Secretary of Defense and other relevant heads of the United States government agencies. A is to submit the intelligence assessment of the threat posed by UAP and the progress of UAPTF has made to understand the threat. Okay, so this is what the report wanted. The Senate report specifically requested that the report include. So this is the rules of the report here, so everybody's clear. A detailed analysis of UAP data and intelligence reported collected or held by the Office of Naval Intelligence, including data and intelligence held by the UAPTF. And it's interesting. I wonder why the ONI is taking the lead, as opposed to the Defense Intelligence Agency. But like I said, most of it is naval. Like it said before, Navy. The Navy has done most of the reporting, so the ONI is taking the lead on that. A detailed analysis of identified phenomena data collected by geospatial intelligence, signals intelligence, human intelligence, and measurement and signals intelligence. A detailed analysis of data of the FBI, which was derived from investigations of intrusions of UAP data over restricted U.S. airspace. A detailed description of interagency processes for ensuring timely data collection and centralized analysis of all UAP reporting to the federal government, regardless of which service or agency acquired the information. Identification of an official accountable to the process described in paragraph 4. Identification of potential airspace of other threats posed by the UAP to national security, and assessment of whether this UAP activity may be attributed to one or more foreign adversaries. Identification of any incident or pattern that indicate a potential adversary have achieved breakthrough aerospace capabilities that could put U.S. strategic and conventional forces at risk, and recommendations regarding increased collection of data, enhanced research and developmental, additional funding, and other resources. This is fascinating because this is what they asked, right? This is what specifically the Senate was asking, and they got their answers. So if they would have broadened their questions and forced the intelligence agencies to answer it, we could have got a lot more information. So if we designed another Senate report, because this is what I was basically requesting. The Senate report specifically requested that the report include. So here's what they wanted it to specifically include. So, okay, there's 8 major categorical questions. I can ask about 100 more. Like, for example, why doesn't anybody go down to Area 51 and verify for sure that this is not U.S. technology? I mean, there's obviously we all know about Bob Lazar. Why doesn't someone? Why it's run by the Air Force? We do know that it's Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada. So the Air Force knows for sure what's going on at Area 51. So there should be no confusion. Like the Air Force could come out and just say there's no such thing as S4 or whatever. At least we'd have them on record. Now, whether they tell the truth or not, who knows? I mean, they are privy to psychological, and information warfare that includes lying, for whatever national security. But I'm just saying, I could have added about 100 more questions. But it's a good start. I think it's cool. I mean, it's great. It's certain interesting things to pull from this. There's a lot of interesting, I've been monitoring all the alternative media channels discussing this, and there's a lot of interesting information to extract from it. We do have on record Lou Elizondo saying that there is 3 different types of UAP style craft. He's on record saying it. He said that there's these large triangle-shaped craft, that there's these cylindrical mid-sized craft, and that there's these little disc-shaped fast craft. So that's important to take note. There's a lot of important stuff to take note. But I didn't really want to get into much of my overall assessment on this. My guess is as good as everybody else's, I guess you could say. But I just wanted to read this out and go over it with you guys. Other than that, look for my documentary coming out. It's really good. It's going to be about an hour long, and it's going to cover this too. But that's all I want. I want to keep it a surprise, and I put a lot of hard work on it. That's pretty much where I've been lately. I'm still politically active. I signed up to volunteer with a local campaign. I've been doing that. Still monitoring the situation here in St. Louis with the vaccine and mask mandate in the state of Missouri and the city of St. Louis. What else? Doing some other reports. Everything else is going good, though. I'll keep you in touch and keep you in the loop. Other than that, I'll talk to you guys later.